You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. On today's episode of the podcast, we preview the Test series between England and New Zealand. It's the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast, and let's get started. Let's have a look at the fixture for the Test series between England and New Zealand. 3 Test matches in this Test series. The first Test will be at Lord's on the 2nd of June. The second Test at Trent Bridge will be on the 10th of June. And the third and final Test will be at Headingley on the 23rd of June. Let's have a look at the Test stats between England and New Zealand. Head-to-head in Test matches overall, England have won 48 to New Zealand's 12. Both teams' record in England in Test matches. England have won 30, New Zealand have won 6. Leading run scorer is Wright with 1,518 runs. Leading wicket taker, Hadley with 97. Most dismissals, Paori with 46. Most catches, Fleming with 33. Most matches, Wright with 23. And the first Test match played between the two countries was back in 1930. Let's have a look at both England's and New Zealand's Test squads. Let's have a look at England's Test squad and talk about some of the challenges facing England in this Test series. Their squad for the first 2 Test matches that they've selected is Stokes, Anderson, Bairstow, Broad, Brooke, Crawley, Folkes, Leach, Lees, Overton, Pope, Potts and Root. That's England's Test squad for the first 2 Test matches of this series against New Zealand. England's Test squad, some familiar faces have returned to the squad, along with some new faces. James Anderson and Stuart Broad are back in the Test squad after missing out on the Test tour to the West Indies. Matthew Potts and Harry Brook have been called up to the Test squad following good performances in the County Championship. Potts has taken 35 wickets for Durham in this County Championship. Harry Brook has scored 840 runs for Yorkshire. So they've been called up due to their good performances in the County Championship. No Ollie Robinson, he's battling some fitness issues. Chris Wokes, Mark Wood, Mahmood and Fisher, who were all in the squad for the West Indies tour, are all injured and unavailable for selection. Dan Lawrence is not in the squad, misses out on selection. He was a part of the West Indies tour, but has been dropped for the New Zealand series. It's an England squad that has a blend of youth and experience, according to the new director of English cricket, Rob Key. It certainly has that. Can this squad perform in this Test series against England? That remains to be seen. That is the big question. Can the mixture of experience and youth that England have gone with to start this new era of English Test cricket, can they perform in this series against New Zealand? That remains to be seen. So that's England's Test squad there. A lot of people offering their opinions on the squad, and some of them are happy with the selections, others aren't. And you'll usually get that with a Test squad that's been announced. A lot of people have differing opinions. Now, some of the challenges facing England in this Test series. As we mentioned, we're going to be talking about the challenges, and England are going to be presented with a lot of challenges in this Test series against New Zealand. I think there's no secret about it. They're going to be tested, they're going to be challenged, and that's why they call it Test cricket. They're going to be tested. One of the challenges facing England is how the team will respond and perform under a new captain in Ben Stokes and new coach Brendan McCullum. How will the team react to Stokes and McCullum, getting used to the new captain and coach, whereas before it was Joe Root as captain and then Chris Silverwood as coach. So how will the team respond to Stokes and McCullum as the new captain and coach? That'll be one of the challenges for this England team. Both of them are similar thinkers and similar players. Stokes and McCullum, both of them are cut from the same cloth. Both of them are aggressive players. Brendan McCullum was when he played. Ben Stokes is an aggressive player. Both of them have a positive mindset and attitude. That could have an effect on how England play in this Test series against New Zealand. It could bring some positivity to this England Test side. At the moment, this England Test side pretty much has negativity, low on confidence, and they could badly need some positivity and some confidence in this test series. So that could have an effect on how they play in this series. And the other challenge is Ben Stokes is captain for the first time. In a full-time test series, Ben Stokes will be captain on a full-time basis. So this test series against New Zealand will be his first series in charge as captain, taken over from Joe Root, his good friend and teammate. He'll be under pressure in this series, no doubt about that. Be interesting to see how he copes with the pressure and how he communicates to his team. How does he communicate his message, his philosophy, his ambitions on how the team is going to play their test cricket, how they're going to go about playing their cricket, what's their brand of cricket. So it'd be interesting to see how he conveys that message to the playing group and to the rest of his teammates. And also how he communicates to his bowlers will be very important as well. Obviously, you've got to have a good relationship as captain and bowlers, obviously to work out field placements, tactics. It'll be interesting to see how he goes in all those departments of captaincy. How does he go balancing the team, his bowlers, and how does he go about the tactical side of the game, and how does he respond under pressure? Those are the key indicators they'll be looking out for in this series. How does Ben Stokes handle all of those factors of captaincy? It'll be interesting to see how he goes. But he seems determined to do well as captain. He's relishing the job, he's relishing the role, and that's what you want to see when you've appointed someone as captain and as a leader. They want to do the job, and he wants to do the job. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes in this series. So those are one of the challenges facing England in this series. Let's talk about their batting. Now, their batting, they're going to face a lot of challenges with their batting in this series against New Zealand. The challenge facing England's batsmen is, can they score runs and put New Zealand under pressure in this test series? That's the big challenge, and that's the big question. First innings runs are crucial in a test match, and England haven't scored near enough in the first innings of a test match to put themselves in a commanding position. If they put big runs up in the first innings and on the board, with their bowling attack, with Anderson and Broad, etc., they can put New Zealand under pressure in these conditions in England. But their batsmen need to score the runs for England to do that, and that's the big question mark. I don't think they can personally, but they need to find a way to do that. Now, as I mentioned, England's batsmen will be tested every single ball of this test series, up against a quality New Zealand bowling attack which contains Bolt, Southey, Jamieson, Wagner and Henry, who all did well in the last series in 2021, and no doubt they're going to do well again in this series. It's not going to be easy for England, not going to be an easy task scoring runs up against this quality bowling attack from New Zealand. The thing that England needs to do in this series, and what they've been lacking for some time, is doing the basics well with the bat. In this test series, if they have any chance of competing or winning a test match or the series, and that's a big if, England need to do well with the basics in terms of their batting. They need to do the basics well. They haven't done that for some time in Test cricket. They haven't done the basics well with the bat. They've struggled. They've been poor at doing the basics. They need to build partnerships. They need someone in the top order to score a big century. They need to show some fight and get through the tough periods when things get a bit tough in terms of run scoring, etc. Put a high price on your wicket and don't play rash shots. Rotate the strike, play accordingly to the conditions that are presented to you. They need to do the basics, England, and they've struggled to do that for some time. They've got to do that in this test series against New Zealand. If they do that, they have a chance of competing and probably winning a test match. But if they don't, it's going to be an uphill battle. So they need to do the basics right, England. And this batting order and this batting unit need to do that. They need to tick off the basics, tick off the list. Okay, we're doing this well, we're doing that. They need to do that throughout the 3 test matches so they have any chance of competing against New Zealand. Now, the other challenge is that they can't rely on Joe Root and Ben Stokes all the time. Other England batsmen need to stand up in this test series against New Zealand. Many of these batsmen have been given another chance to prove themselves, and they need to show signs of improvement. Ollie Pope is one example of an England batsman back into the squad and given another opportunity to prove himself. Looks like he'll bat at number 3 in this test series. Ben Stokes said he'll bat at number 6. Joe Root back at number 4. And when Johnny Bairstow is in the side, he'll bat at number 5. So Ollie Pope will have to go to number 3. So batting at number 3 is an important position. As we all know in cricket, it's an important position in the batting order. And England are trusting Ollie Pope to bat in that position for this Test series against New Zealand. As we know, he has the potential and skills, but time after time hasn't performed when needed. In this year's county championship for Surrey, in season 2022, he scored 417 runs at an average of 69.5 with 1 century and 3 50s. All well and good doing that at county cricket, but he needs to translate that form into Test cricket, but he can't. And that's the problem for England's batsmen, not just Ollie Pope, that they do well in county cricket, and they can't translate that form into Test cricket or international cricket, which is a concern for England. A good opportunity for him to prove himself, and let's see what he can do at number 3. But that's the problem with England and the many batsmen they've tried in the Test side, is that they haven't been able to convert their county cricket form into Test cricket form. And that's the major concern. Obviously, something mentally and something technical in terms of their techniques are not really holding up at international cricket. So they need to try and find ways to improve that. That's the other challenge, is that some of the batsmen who've played county cricket this year, like Ollie Pope, for example, as I mentioned, they need to convert that county cricket form into Test cricket. People want to see those batsmen convert that form into county cricket. Will Ollie Pope and these other batsmen do that? I'm not sure about that. I think they could struggle again, but they need to start translating that form into Test cricket. So that's another challenge for England with the bat. Now, to finish off about England's batting before we talk about the bowling quickly, England's batsmen, as I mentioned earlier, will face plenty of challenges in this Test series against New Zealand. They need to find a way to overcome these challenges. They need to find a way, because if they don't, it's going to be the same old story again. They're going to have batting collapses. They're going to get bowled out cheaply, as we saw what happened in the West Indies in the last Test match in Grenada, where they had that batting collapse and they lost that Test match badly. And then what we saw in the Ashes, especially in Melbourne, in that Test match when they got bowled out for 60-odd, they need to find ways and to get through the challenges. And in Test cricket, you need a lot of mental strength, mental toughness to get through those challenges. At the moment, this team does not have great mental toughness, and they can't find ways to get through tough periods. Can they do that? Only time will tell. But that's the biggest thing that England need to do in this series. They got to overcome the challenges that come their way with the bat. So pretty much those are the challenges that will face England's batsmen in this Test series against New Zealand. Let's talk about England's bowling and some of the challenges facing them in this Test series against New Zealand. I think England's bowling will do fine in this Test series against New Zealand. England's batting is their main problem, not their bowling. Their bowling's been pretty good. They've been able to take wickets. The main problem and concern is their batting, which has let them down on numerous occasions. But some of the challenges that could face England's bowlers in this Test series is how they combat the New Zealand batsmen. They need to take wickets early and put New Zealand under pressure and bowl them out for low scores in this Test series. If they don't do that, and given how poor England's batting is at the moment, England are going to struggle chasing down runs and setting up Test matches or chasing down runs to win in this Test series against New Zealand. So they really got to find ways to combat the New Zealand batting order, because New Zealand's got some quality batsmen and they're not going to give their wickets away. They're going to make you earn their wickets. So England will have to be prepared to play the long game and try and be patient and try and pick up wickets if they can. More importantly, they've got to try and capitalise on their moments and opportunities, use the conditions to their advantage. Because obviously English conditions, they know what to do with the ball in English conditions. They've got to utilise them. They've got to make most of the conditions. They're going to make the most of the conditions, I should say. And they've got to take early wickets, because that's the only way I see England challenging New Zealand. And their batsmen have to score runs. If they don't, it's going to be very hard. They've got to do the basics well with the ball, bowl consistent lines and lengths, build pressure with dot balls and maidens, execute your skills with the ball and your plans. All important things for England in this series. Obviously, Anderson and Broad are back into the side, and they'll be back into the bowling attack. And they're going to be relied on heavily in this Test series for England. No big surprise. Broad and Anderson take majority of the wickets. And they're going to be relied on heavily in this series. If they have a good series with the ball, and the rest of the bowlers chip in, for example, and support them, then they can put New Zealand under pressure. But if they're not going to have a great series with the ball, it's going to be an uphill struggle for England. And it's going to be very tough. So Anderson and Broad will have an important role to play, and all the bowlers who England select and choose in these 3 Test matches will need to support them and, make sure they're contributing to the effort with the ball. So that's the biggest challenge for England in this series with the ball. They need to find ways to take early wickets and put New Zealand under pressure. That's the only way I see them challenging New Zealand, because their batting doesn't look like they're going to put New Zealand under pressure. The only way they're going to put New Zealand under pressure is probably with the ball. And England's strongest suit in their Test team at the moment is their bowling. And their batting's their weakness. So they need to capitalise on their bowling, and they need to make the most of their opportunities with the ball. If they've got any chance of competing or winning this Test series against New Zealand. So those are some of the challenges that could present themselves to the England bowlers in this Test series against New Zealand. Let's have a look at New Zealand's Test squad and talk about some of the challenges facing New Zealand in this Test series. The squad New Zealand have selected for this series against England is Williamson, Blundell, Boult, Bracewell, Conway, de Granholm, Duffy, Fletcher, Henry, Jamieson, Latham, Mitchell, Nichols, Patel, Jadeja, Rutherford, Southey, Tickner, Wagner and Young. It's a strong New Zealand squad that they've selected for this Test series against England. A blend of experience and some inexperienced players. But New Zealand looking to try different players and give them some experience at Test level. Looking ahead to the future as well, which is always a good sign, where you can always look ahead to the future and try different players out. It's been a bit of an up and down WTC for New Zealand in 2021 to 2023 in this second cycle of the WTC. It hasn't been plain sailing for the defending WTC champions, but they'll be looking to put in a solid performance in this Test series against England and looking to get back on track for the remaining Test matches and series that they will play in this 2021 to 2023 WTC cycle, and hopefully make a count and make a bit of a charge to play in that final again. Now let's talk about some of the challenges that could be facing New Zealand with both the bat and the ball. We'll start with the batting. I don't see too many challenges for New Zealand with the bat in this series for the batsmen. New Zealand have a quality batting unit, and in the Test series in 2021 in England, all of the batsmen did well. Devon Conway scored a double century at Lord's. He was the top run scorer for New Zealand. All of the other batsmen contributed in some shape or form in the series. And New Zealand did the basics well in that series in 2021. And the thing about this New Zealand batting lineup is that they're so used to these conditions. Obviously, English conditions are very similar to New Zealand conditions. And a lot of these batsmen are technically sound. They know how to play against the swinging and seaming ball. They are very good. And they're top class in quality. And that's why New Zealand have a strong batting unit in their team. Obviously, they did the basics well with the bat in the last series. They built partnerships and backed up good partnerships as well. They didn't play rash shots. They put a high price on their wicket. One of the top order scores that big score, the big century, like Devon Conway, for example, at Lord's in that first test in the last series. They did all the basics well with the bat. They rotated the strike well. They were patient. They were prepared to play for time and really capitalise on some loose deliveries by the England bowlers. So they just do the basics well, New Zealand, and I don't see too many challenges for them. The thing I'll say about New Zealand with their batsmen is to stick to the same template and plan that you had in 2021. I don't think they need to try anything different in 2022, stick to the same plans that we had in 2021. If they do that, they'll be able to score big runs in the first innings or chase down targets in this test series and really put England under pressure in terms of trying to set up test matches and trying to win test matches. So I think the New Zealand batsmen, for them, it's important to stick to the same plan and template that we had in 2021 heading into 2022 for this test series. If they do that, they'll have great success and do well. And I think they'll do well. Conway did well in the last series. I think he'll do well again in this series. You've got Nichols, you've got Young, you've got Latham, you've got Blundell, you've got Williamson, de Granholm, as an example. I think they'll all do well and contribute in this test series. So the New Zealand batsmen, they are going to be challenged by the England bowlers at times, but I think there's not too many challenges for them. And I think they're pretty much at home in English conditions, obviously very similar to New Zealand conditions. So I think they'll do well with the bat. The one question mark I have with their batting is Kane Williamson. Been out of the test side for a while now with an elbow injury, which has troubled him lately. Been playing in the IPL and didn't have a great season with the Sunrisers Hyderabad. Can he return to some near his best form in this test series against England? Obviously, he's going to be a very crucial batsman for New Zealand, obviously the captain as well. Be interesting to see how he goes. That's the one question mark I have about New Zealand's batting, is how Kane Williamson will go about things in this series. Obviously, he's a quality player. He should be able to, get through this and bounce back. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. But overall, those are some of the challenges that could be facing New Zealand's batsmen in this test series against England. Let's talk about some of the challenges that could be facing New Zealand's bowlers in this test series against England. Just like the batting, I don't see too many challenges for New Zealand's bowlers in this test series against England. It's a quality attack, and they'll use the conditions well, as English conditions are similar to New Zealand conditions. This New Zealand bowling attack will challenge the England batsmen every single ball of this test series, and will be relentless in terms of their lines and lengths, the pressure they build on the England batsmen. They'll just keep coming at you, and they won't give you an inch. It's a very quality attack. It's got some brilliant skills in the attack in terms of swing, seam, and many other things. The test series in 2021 with this New Zealand bowling attack, they did quite well and were able to get the job done for New Zealand. Tim Southee and Neil Wagner took 7 wickets in that series. Matt Henry and Trent Boult took 6 wickets. And Kyle Jamieson had a bit of a quiet series. He only took three wickets in that series, but he did his part. He contributed in the 2 test matches. So, it's a quality attack. I don't think they'll have any trouble taking wickets and really causing some headaches and some problems for England in this series. The thing I'll say about New Zealand with their bowlers is to stick to the basics with the ball. And I think their bowling attack does that quite well. They stick to the basics, and it's important for New Zealand to stick to the basics with the ball. Bowl consistent line and length, build pressure with dot balls and maidens, execute your skills with the ball and your plans, and make sure you have clear thought processes and methods and in terms of how you're going to get the batsman out, types of fields you want to set to a particular batsman. So I think the New Zealand bowlers will have no problems in this series. I think all of the bowlers I mentioned earlier, I think all of them will do well. I think they'll take loads of wickets, and I think they'll really cause some problems for the England bowlers. But the one question mark I have about their bowling is how the bowlers pull up from the IPL. Obviously, Tim Southee and Trent Boult, as an example, both of them played in the IPL. Be interesting to see how they pull up and get back into the rhythm of Test match cricket again. But they're professionals, and they should have no problems getting back into the groove of Test match cricket. So that's the only question mark I have about their bowling. But besides from that, I think they'll do very well and have great success in this series against England. So those are some of the challenges that could be facing the New Zealand bowlers in this Test series against England. Let's predict who's going to win this Test series and the leading run scorer and leading wicket taker for the series. I've gone with New Zealand to win the series. I think they're going to win 2-0. One Test match may get affected by rain. After all, it's in England, so I think New Zealand will win the series 2-0. New Zealand by far the strongest team, and they should be able to win back-to-back Test series in England following their series win in 2021. And can they back it up in 2022? Absolutely they can. So I think New Zealand to win the series. Leading run scorer for the series, I've gone with Joe Root to be the leading run scorer for the series. Going to be an important batsman for England in this Test series with the bat. And he should be able to pile on the runs and continue on his golden patch of 4. So I think Joe Root's going to be in the runs, and I think he's going to be the leading run scorer in this Test series. Leading wicket taker for the series, I've gone with Kyle Jamieson. Going to be an important bowler for New Zealand in this Test series with the ball, and he should be able to take loads of wickets because he's a very promising bowler, Kyle Jamieson. He's taken a lot of wickets since he's come into Test cricket. Obviously, the last series in 2021 had a bit of a low series in terms of wickets, but I think he'll be able to improve those stats from 2021 and take loads of wickets in the 2022 series. So I've gone with Kyle Jamieson as my leading wicket taker for the series. Those are my predictions for this Test series. If you're listening to this episode of the podcast on YouTube, let us know in the comments who do you think will win the series and your predictions for leading run scorer and leading wicket taker for the series. It would be great to hear your predictions and thoughts. This Test series for England is the start of a new era, with Ben Stokes as captain and Brendan McCullum as coach. Will England bounce back and start winning again? Or will New Zealand be victorious and win their second straight Test series in England? Let's see what happens over the next 3 Test matches. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell to get the latest episodes of the podcast, and like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.